Leadership isn't about a title, it's about influence, and you already have it. If you've ever felt the pressure to become a school administrator so that you could have a bigger impact, please pause. Because that power to lead actually already lives inside you. It's how you show up every day. It's how you work with your colleagues and your learners. And it's not what your job title is. Hi, welcome if you're new. I'm Christina. I'm an educator and a mentor for educators who are change makers in education. I've spent a decade working in international schools with amazing educators, and you know what I've noticed? A lot of school reforms don't actually take effect because they come from big top-down policies, whereas the small, purpose-driven initiatives started by educators in their classrooms, those can be shared with others and can actually grow into something much bigger. So this video and this whole video series are letters to my past self, the change maker in the classroom, because I want to remind her, 1, you're not alone in trying to change education. 2, your daily efforts are moving the needle forward. Keep going. And 3, the real change is happening in education. You might just not be aware of it. So grab your coffee and let's dive into what I wish I'd known as a changemaker educator. I worked with a wonderful educator who had this saying: there's big L leaders and there are little L leaders, and you need both in a great school. Too often we only think about the big L leaders, the principals, heads of schools, instructional coaches, who drive choices about the curriculum, assessments, and policies. But you can probably think of someone in your school community right now who is a little L leader, if not yourself. Because these are the people who model and influence change in less obvious ways. There is leadership already happening in classrooms and in teaching teams. But oftentimes we only think about leadership as coming from the top down. And I want to reverse that. Think about leadership as coming from the bottom up. Because leadership is about influence, not a hierarchy. You can lead today because you are asking people around you to be more reflective. You're asking them to shift their thinking or their behaviors, and you're supporting their growth. Right now, you can give yourself permission to claim the title of little L leader, because you are already making a big difference in your school community. And this is because power lies in relationships. Real leadership is relational, it's not positional. You have to think about the relationship that you're creating with other people, and not followers, but people who recognize you as a leader to be able to determine where to go next. You have to have this feedback loop, this continuity of trust and of creating opportunities. Real leaders invite collaboration, they want feedback, they want reflection. They also model curiosity, they ask questions, they continually remodel their thinking. You lead students and colleagues and sometimes even admin when you have discussions with them that shift their thinking. They might be drawn to your energy because you create a space of possibility and openness to new ideas. Maybe your presence in the room adds a calm and a directionality to the conversation. Give yourself a bit more credit as a leader in your school. It's really important though, as a change maker in education, and you also consider yourself a leader, that you are careful not to chase external validation, because this is a trap. This is often where leaders who don't have that title get frustrated, because you're waiting for praise or appreciation and validation from an external source, maybe your students or your colleagues or the parents or administration, to say, wow, great job, thank you for leading that. That was an amazing idea. I'm so glad you picked that up and ran with it. You are very likely to not get that praise. And if you are feeling reliant on it, it's going to start to fester and drive this feeling of, well, if I don't get the praise, I'm not going to do it. That's not leadership. Leaders do the work even if there's never going to be a praise, even if there's never going to be any acknowledgement of their effort, because the work itself is the reward. And I know we use that phrase too much in education, but in the situation of leadership, this is actually applicable. You lead because it's what you do. Again, it's an identity. It's not about seeking validation. It's not about being heard. You do it because it's what you do. Woo, I'm running out of breath on this one. Well, I have a story time. So, past Christina, I would like to tell you about an educator that I have recently been talking to through mentorship conversations. And this leader really cared about creating a space for collaboration in their school. Basically, they entered a new school and they were met with a lot of toxic conflict, competitiveness among the other teachers. And this didn't sit well with them and they really wanted to change it. Of course, they could have gone to their administration and asked about a proposal or a new process, but instead, this educational leader decided, I'm going to create a peer mentorship program. And they didn't call it that, they just called it like chat time or something of this sort. But they basically sent out a message to the other educators in their school and said, hey, at this time to this time, it was all after school, I'm going to be at this spot. If you want to come and hang out and chat, feel free. Like, I'm happy to go over ideas or just hear what's going on with you. And basically this educator just made themselves available. And someone came. And it started as a one-to-one conversation that eventually became 5 people, that eventually grew into a large enough group that they had to move to a secondary location, so they had enough tables. And these conversations were starting to bring the community more together. People who were always at each other's throats got to have a moment to talk to others and then see from other perspectives. And so in talking with this educator, it was a sense of, you can start now with an idea and just see what happens. Maybe nobody does show up. Depends on the school. But in this group, the new teachers got to talk to teachers they wouldn't have before, and teachers who had issues with each other got to sit in a neutral space. And of course, it didn't all happen overnight. This took, I think she said, a year and a half to really get rolling into something that leadership noticed. But once the leadership noticed, they actually put a name to it. They actually shared it in the newsletter. They actually wanted this to be a thing that their school is known for. And it all started as an initiative by one educator who said, I see a problem, I can try something. That is little L leadership. Finally, I want to draw on this point that a lot of us who are leaders in our school communities might have at one point been told, you would be a great school leader. You should go and become a principal. You should think about becoming a school head. Well, it's not necessarily our path. And I say that knowing that I would not be school leadership. It was not what I meant to do. I am supposed to support educators. I loved teaching students when they were in my classroom, but I've always been drawn to caring for my fellow educators and supporting them through their growth. So if you feel like staying in the classroom or staying in the current role that you're in is where you're meant to be, own that. Being a leader doesn't have to be tied to a title. And I think if we can detach from that in education, in our circles of who gets to be on certain calls or have initiatives brought forward, we will get a lot better at bringing amazing ideas to the forefront. Remember that being a leader requires a lot of courage. It requires being clear and definitive and having consistency. You show up, rain or shine, because you are a leader. You do this work because it's who you are, not because someone gave you a title. That's a true leader. You build a culture where everyone collaborates and ideas are welcome. You mentor other educators because you wish that that had been available to you, and you are bringing it back around now that you have the opportunity and the bandwidth to support those other educators. And you propose initiatives by taking action. You show that this could have an effect right now, and if it doesn't, you try something else. You try something else. You try something else, because it's who you are. And what I want to leave you with, the big takeaway, is that you showing up every day as a leader, that's what matters. So own this identity and be consistent, because when you show up consistently for your community, they will recognize you as a leader. Big L or little L. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear your comments below, and you can feel free to connect with me all over the internet. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Substack, and I would like to know if you have an idea for a future video, because I want this video series to be something that's impactful and valuable to you. Thank you so much. Ciao!